get the recording up. Um, I think that I guess I let me ask a few other questions to begin here.
Sure.
What's your goal out of this? Like, are you or like what's your goal while playing? Are you playing to climb, improve, rank up, to win games? Like, is your goal to use this for the like mostly sole purpose of like making content out of it? What is your goal when playing the game?
Yeah, so the goal is to rank up to plat. And I'm basically giving myself 3 days to do it.
Hmm.
Which is definitely very ambitious. But I'm kind of making it into like a fun challenge of like there's
Hmm.
different kind of like set points in terms of like if I make it to this point or don't make it, like I have to do kind of like a challenge
Hmm.
kind of thing. So it's a challenge based video of climbing the ranks.
Yeah.
Is what the
I
goal is.
got you. I think that's definitely doable, especially if like you're an experienced. I mean, it'd probably be difficult if like like since you have no hero shooter experience. But let's honestly let's cut some other chit chat since we don't have as much time in a 30-minute
Sure.
session and we want to get as much content in as possible. Do you have
Okay,
any
great.
questions for me before we get started into anything?
Yeah, no, no, that all sounds great. Well, yeah, whatever you think would be best, if it's the range is the best, or if like you want me to hop into a match and you just spectate me,
Weapons
whatever,
keep getting
just let me
better,
know.
but it's
Yeah.
still the person behind them that
If
matters
we're just
most.
going over the general gist of the game, it might be better to just to bit the stick in the range. And
Incoming!
then if you ever wanted a future session to go over your particular gameplay, then that's also a great option for improvement and self improvement. Um,
Okay, cool.
Now, when it comes to just hero shooter in general, um, when it comes to getting better at them, the general gist, and this is how I do coaching in the first place, is you want to figure out what mistakes can you be improving upon? Like, what are the things that you are not doing optimally? Like, for example, deaths, or not getting a kill, or letting a teammate die if you're not healing them, or like misusing abilities or misusing ultimates, things like that. What are you doing wrong? What's the
Okay,
issue within that mistake? Because usually there's a next step, right? If you died, well, why did you die? Don't just leave it at
sure.
you died. Why did you die? So maybe you died because you were out in the open, right? Well, if you're out in the open,
Here they come!
what's the solution to that issue, and what's the solution to that mistake? Usually, a lot of times, the solution is going to be the opposite of the issue. So if I'm dying because I'm out in the open, well, maybe I need to start using cover. And
Sure.
then finally, of application of putting these things into practice, and you practice by playing the game, but you can't just play the game just to play the game. You have to be playing the game to improve and playing the game. And what you want to do is actively focus on those things that you're
One
trying
down.
to work on. Actively like give them attention and focus, and you want to think to yourself, like if you're trying to work on positioning, for example, you'd think to yourself, positioning, 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 cover, 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 high grounds, high grounds, high grounds, and you're just giving yourself a constant stream of reminders to think about the things that
Yeah.
you're trying to work on.
Yeah,
um
so essentially like the idea
yep.
of deliberate practice and just like having
One down.
a focus on improvement and having
Yep.
yeah, that's a general approach that I've taken is to try to
Hmm.
yeah, focus on like maybe like one or two things to make
Yeah.
meaningful change on.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. 100%. Yep. You don't want to overwhelm yourself and do way too many things all at the same
Yeah.
time. All right, so
Not today.
we're just gonna touch briefly on a bunch of different categories
Okay.
of the game. I mean, obviously, firstly, let's just talk real quickly about characters and team comps and whatnot.
Perfect.
Now within Marvel Rivals, you have vanguards, duelists, and the strategists. The
Okay.
vanguards are gonna be your tanky builds. You generally, gameplay wise, in a team composition, you want about one to two of them, if at all possible. At least that's what you'll find generally in ranked. I think that you can definitely make 3 DPS work. So usually it'll go. You could have two, 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 right? Two of the vanguards, two
Okay.
duelists, two strategists.
Okay.
Because that kind of evens things out. You have enough healing, you have enough damage, you have enough tanking.
Okay.
But sometimes you'll see, especially just because the duelists are a really popular role. You'll see
Oh,
like
okay.
you'll see one tank, one of the vanguards, and that usually works out fine. Depending on, like, are your DPS doing enough? Is the tank?
Okay.
Sometimes certain tanks are better for solo tanking than others. Um, so with the vanguards, you got to just be careful about that. Um,
Okay.
I think that's honestly some of the basics there. What something unique to Marvel Rivals is the team ups. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yeah, I'm aware of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so just watch them because they can be very, very proficient. So, some of them are a little, they're just okay. Others are really powerful. Because you can just by playing certain characters together, you can get anything from just like an extra small ability like Moon Knight gets an invisibility he can use, to
Oh,
something
okay.
like really crazy good, like if you play an Adam Warlock with a Mantis and a Star Lord, right? Just either or. Then Mantis and Star Lord have a resurrect ability, um,
Okay.
which is
And yeah, and
really
that's
crazy.
also obviously important to be aware of like that on the other team too, if
Yeah.
they're picking those characters.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
exactly. Yep. So it's a good thing just to be aware of and uh, be paying attention to.
Okay.
They require a anchor character. So the Adam Warlock would be the anchor character here, and then you would need either you need the anchor, and then the one of the others. So an Adam Warlock and Mantis, or Star Lord, or both. Then it would activate.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so team comp like 2-2-2 is ideal, but sometimes you can kind of get away with one tank, depending on
Yep.
if like your other players are wanting to kind of main DPS and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, like we'll see though, because the game's still relatively fresh. It could be
Sure.
that someday somebody like you'll see some top level team mess around and completely break the game. In Overwatch, for like
Yeah.
an entire year and a half, they had this thing called GOATS meta, where the meta for an entire year and a half, and Overwatch tried the devs tried like 13 different patches to try to fix it, but it was still the hard meta was
Okay.
3 tanks and 3 supports.
Okay.
So
Oh
they
wow. Yeah.
so you wouldn't
Okay.
even play any damage characters.
Yeah.
So we'll
Yeah.
see how long this game lasts before before people figure out that that's the optimal strategy.
Yeah.
um all right. Cool. Moving on. Um, Positioning basics. That's a good one to start with.
Yeah.
Within a hero shooter, you want to be making sure you're using a lot of covers all over the place, and if you're not using it optimally, you're going to be dying and taking a lot of extra damage. If you're standing way out in the open, and people start shooting at you, you take multiple seconds to go run behind something, and in that time you die. So instead, if
Yep.
you're right next to something, you can just get behind it very quickly and easily. And this allows you to reduce your damage significantly and not die,
Okay.
because you can just get around the corner. Very similar
Sure.
to other games in that regard. So making sure that you're using cover, and Great Things covers all over the place, so look to utilize it. You have slopes and pillars and doorways and corners and high grounds. High grounds are another phenomenal thing, like in a lot of other
Yeah.
games as well. You want to make sure that you are taking high grounds because they give you a lot of visibility over the map. They give you survivability because certain characters can't reach you or they need to use abilities. It means as well that you have access to easy cover, right? They can see you now, they can't. Um, so high grounds are really fantastic. And then besides that, you just generally want to know the range of your character, because certain characters are
Okay.
gonna be better at certain ranges. There's certain characters,
Yes.
yeah, because that's a very different thing
Yeah.
in a hero shooter. Because
Yes. Well, I'm
yep,
laughing because I played one game and
mhm.
I picked Black Panther and I quickly realized that he's a very unique character. And like how you play him is yeah, you
Yep,
got to be kind of up close and like
yep,
it seemed like kind of poking and then like backing off and
yeah.
doing something like that kind of made sense. But it was also I think I picked a fairly difficult character to
Yeah, yeah.
first try out.
Black Panther is all about like his combos that he works
Okay.
together. I'd recommend like we don't have to spend the whole time talking about him, but I'd recommend
No,
like maybe
yeah,
watching a video on how he works because he
sure.
refreshes his abilities by landing his other abilities and
Sure.
attacks. So
Okay.
yeah, he's a close range character. You're gonna have a lot of characters that are brawly, very close range, want to play up like on top of you. So Black
Okay.
Panther is like that. Iron Fist, Wolverine is like that. All brawl characters. Tank wise, it'd be like maybe you have a Hulk, right? Is gonna be like that.
Okay.
And Captain America want to be like right up on top of your face. So you have characters that like play at that close range. And
Uh-huh.
really, they're gonna be a lot less effective if they're back. If they're back here, they're gonna be doing basically nothing. Um, and
Okay.
they want to be playing probably in like the 10-meter plus range. Some of them are like
Okay.
they want to be trying to get up to like here. Not obviously not always like every single moment of the entire game because there will be times they have to back up, but they're
Sure.
when they're going into attack, a lot of times they get in closer.
No, that
Then
makes sense.
you have more mid-range characters who can start to play up toward like a little bit further. Like Psylocke is like a bit more it's like she's more like close to mid, right? She does like to play a little bit closer, not like really far away, because different things, so the different things that will impact what range you play at, and you can kind of just go in the practice range and test it out, is you
Yeah.
want to look at your primary fire, any secondary fires, and then your abilities, right? Like,
Okay.
and the things you have. So things that will make it so that you have to play closer. Obviously, if your primary fire does not have any range, it has a really close range, you probably got to go closer.
Okay.
Things that will make it make a primary fire do less is fall off damage, so it doing less damage from a distance. A lot of
Oh,
times
okay. There's
hits.
fall off damage.
Yeah, so a lot of the time, so different characters have different fall. Like you have to kind of test it out and know because some characters
Yeah.
have no fall off damage and others do. So like Mantis has because she shoots projectiles has no fall off damage.
Okay.
But a character like Storm does have fall off damage from a range where she's doing a little bit less from there than she is from here.
Okay.
So yeah, you kind of gotta know between fall off damage. You also have spread, so some weapons shoot like a bunch of pellets, and because you're missing some of those, you're gonna be doing less damage at a range
Uh-huh.
than when you're closer up.
Okay.
You also have the fact that targets get smaller the further away you go, so that means that they're harder to shoot at. You also have abilities, like for example, Psylocke's one ability has a range of what is it, 24 meters? Let me go back up.
Mind over matter.
Yep, so it has a range of like 24 meters. So you probably want to not be further than that because you can't use your secondary fire from beyond
Oh,
that.
sure. That makes
Right.
sense.
But
So,
then
so
even
no, I
good.
oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead. Ask your question.
I was just gonna ask. I kind of derailed the conversation there for a minute,
Mhm.
but just to go back to the positioning, one
Sure.
question I did have is like I've been watching some like I guess like the higher level players play, and I've noticed them talk about like positioning in terms of like general like front line versus like kind of being more towards the back and stuff. So in
Yeah.
terms of classes, is there like
Yeah.
a general strategy for who's at the front, who's at the back,
Yeah.
who's playing like mid or like going
Yeah.
for like different like routes and stuff?
Yeah, so it definitely so because of how that works out, the tanks, the vanguards, they typically stick up towards the front, generally
Okay.
speaking. Now there will be, of course, circumstances where they go to the back or where other characters push forwards, but generally speaking, the vanguards stick up towards the front because they have the most health, they have the tanking abilities, they stay alive the easiest. The duelists, they'll kind of be all around. They might be flanking off on the left or the right. They might be in their
Okay.
back line. They might just be sitting in the middle of your team. If they're like more of just like a shooty shoot character, like maybe like Punisher, who's just kind of like your average just shooter character.
Okay.
So It kind of just depends with those guys, and then the strategists, they generally stick towards the back of your team because they need to be able to heal everybody, and they're the
Okay.
ones who want to be able to stay alive, and they can tend to be pretty easy to kill if you go and target them. They have the least amount of
Okay.
damage, so they also don't want to be like randomly flanking because then they can't actually do anything to support their team if they're always flanking.
Gotcha.
So that's your general like 1, 2, 3. Like you have the
Yeah.
vanguards up front, duelists in the middle, or wherever they want to be, just depending on who they're dueling, and then the strategists stick in the back.
Okay, that makes sense. So it can definitely be a strategy, obviously, to kind of like target the healers, just so that once you knock them out, then it kind of leaves like the tanks exposed and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Okay.
Generally, unless tanks are like low out of position or the only thing you can shoot at, you just want to focus the other squishier characters,
Oh,
like the
okay. Yeah.
duelists or the strategist. Kind of depends on who's most available. Yeah, taking out the strategist can definitely be a good option, or
Okay.
taking out a duelist, since they can be pretty easy to kill as well. The tanks can sometimes be difficult, so it kind of depends on if they're right in your face, or they're just overextended or things like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Um, uh, let's see. I think so. Yeah, I think we finished range for the most part. Um,
Yep.
like just watch all these different things, pay attention to them. A lot of the time, most characters will start to cap, unless they're like a sniper. They'll start to cap. Like most characters will cap past mid range. There are a few characters that'll go to like really long range, like Black Widow maybe, who would go to long range. But a lot of characters will start to cap like mid range. So close, if close range is like 15 meters or even like 10 meters and closer, mid range is probably gonna be like, I guess we can say like, so maybe like 15 meters closer is close, 15 meters to like 30 meters is like mid, and then past 30 meters is starting to get to long range.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Let's see. Awareness. There's a lot of things to be aware of in hero shooters, so you just kind of have to get used to paying attention to everything. You have to pay attention to team
Mhm.
compositions because team compositions dictate your play style. You'll play completely differently if they got different characters on their team and if you got different characters on your team. Because like we discussed before with like those team up abilities and things like that, or even just their abilities and their characters, they're gonna have completely different play styles depending on what they're playing, and therefore you probably will have a different play style depending on what everybody's playing. So
Sure.
pressing tab to see what characters are being played is important. That should usually be pressed
Oh, okay. Yeah.
at least like once between every fight. It'd be good to know that info. Um, Paying attention to kill feed is very important. So on the top right hand corner of your
Oh, yeah.
screen, when you're in a game, it'll show you who's alive and who's dead. And that is important information because that'll like kind of tell you when you're winning or losing a fight. If
Yeah, that
you
makes sense. Because
Yep.
I can already tell from just playing a little bit, the fights can get pretty chaotic, right?
Yeah,
And it's like
yep,
definitely important to know what's going on, like on other
exactly.
parts of the map.
Yep. So like
Okay.
generally speaking, with watching kill feed, if you're up up or down 1 or 2 people, that's an advantage or a disadvantage. If
Okay.
you're and in which case you just play more aggro or more passive. If you're up or down 2 to 3 people, then you've either won the fight or lost the fight. In which case
Yep.
if you've won the fight, you just go, play extra aggressive, pick up those kills. If you've lost the fight, you get out if you can. And if you can't, let them kill you. That way you don't end up staggering yourself and just dying really late, and that's just not good for your team.
Okay.
And it can start stagger trains where now everybody's staggering.
Yeah.
It's just overall not good.
And when you say stagger, you're basically kind of playing split from your team, like where there's
Yeah.
like
So
you're just kind of in the blender.
Yeah,
where, like-
staggering is dying late. So if you die really late, now your team is all respawn before you, and they have the choice to either push
Gotcha.
without you or not to push. If they don't push, you're wasting their time. If they push without you, then they're going to be at a disadvantage in the fight. Or they
Okay.
could even you could start a stagger train and you go in and die, and then one or
Yeah.
two of your teammates go in and die, and then another
Yep.
2 teammates go in and die, right? And then you just
Yeah.
don't get a fight.
Yep. That makes sense.
Um, Yeah, so just die if you can't get out of the fight. And then you also just want to make sure not to use ultimates if you won or lost the fight, because then that's just wasting those if you've won or lost the fight already.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely seemed like maybe you can talk about that just briefly. It seems like a lot of times, especially like the higher level play, like almost entirely the game, like the strategy is like when you use your ultimates and like how you kind of chain those with your team and stuff. It seems like
Yeah.
it's like definitely like conservation of your ult. When you use it, when you don't use it, can be very important.
Yeah, so I mean, generally you want to use ultimates at the start of fights. Mid-fight is okay timing to use it, depending a little bit. Late fight is kind of very situational, because by then most of everything is resolving. So
Yep.
it kind of really depends on if you're using your ultimate late fight.
Yep.
In between fights, I'd say it's rare. Do you want to use your ultimate? Not never, but rare. You don't want to be
Yeah.
constantly using your ultimates when fights aren't happening. A lot of times
Okay.
that's just wasting them. And then you don't want to be ulting if the entire rest of your team is ulting, unless they're using all their ultimates. I mean, like if you need
Yeah,
to
sure.
use 6 ultimates because they're using 6 ultimates, then sure. But if your team uses 6 ultimates and they use 0 or 1 ultimates, then you just over ulted, and now your team has no ultimates and they have all the ultimates. So they're just gonna win the next fight.
No, that makes sense.
So, just watch. You can see what ultimates your team has in tab. Just watch it, and generally ultimates charge every other fight. So you use the ultimate, you use the ultimate in one fight. You spend the next fight charging it up, and then after the next fight you'll have it again. Generally speaking. So
Makes sense.
that also gives you a rough idea for what they'll have, because if they didn't use it the fight before, they probably got it.
Yep. No, that makes sense. I know we're running kind of close to the end of the time here, so the one question I definitely did want to kind of get answered here is like with solo queue specifically and stuff is I'm imagining like maybe like is there a certain class that you think would probably work better? Probably I'm imagining like the Vanguard or the Strategist, just based on kind of what the fact that DPS characters are pretty popular.
Yeah. If you know how to flex, then you definitely will see a lot of. It'll be much easier for you to get your role, because I play duelists, and you definitely have sometimes where you have like where you immediately, like, just from the get-go you have like 3 people pick duelists,
Yeah.
even in competitive modes. So especially if you're ever like queuing with multiple people, you really want to have. I'm dumb, and my friend and I both play the duelists, so that doesn't work out a lot of times. So I end up flexing,
Sure.
I'm like kind of forced to flex to play strategist a lot. Especially if you're queuing with multiple people, might be good to have at least one of you be flexible to play those other characters, and like a strategist. By yourself, you don't always necessarily have to. Like, you can just play whatever you're best at and whatever you enjoy the most, because you'll put the most effort into it, and have the most fun. But being a little bit flexible to play, at least I've noticed, but play either can be beneficial, but not needed.
Okay, that makes sense. And then like the last big question I definitely had would be like, obviously I'm gonna have to spend a good bit of time learning all the different heroes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, I know this is gonna be very subjective, but would you be able to give me like 2 or 3 heroes like from each class that you think would be like worthwhile to learn first?
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to strategists, I'm thinking maybe like do you want like easy characters, or the most meta characters? What are you thinking?
I would say the most meta characters. I think I can like definitely put in the time to learn even if the characters made it a little more difficult. But yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
definitely thinking like more meta.
Yeah. So in terms of strategist, I think from what I've heard, Hulk is pretty solid. Doctor Strange is a very good solo tank. He's
Okay.
very well rounded. So those two, and then maybe I'd say, so yeah, Doctor. And then maybe I guess those are like 2 good ones to start with. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, Penny's pretty complicated. Magneto's pretty simple, and Venom are pretty simple. So if you're looking for simple picks, Magneto and Venom are going to be your easy ones. Duelists, um, you will have meta at the moment. Storm and Iron Man are pretty solid. Expect Storm is really, really, really good. So might might recommend picking up a Storm. Um,
Okay.
she's gonna be like a flying character. Um,
Okay.
and then besides that, like if you want something that's a bit more flankier, brawly, Psylocke is pretty good. That has like a bit higher of aim requirement. So if aim's not your thing, you could pick up something else. Um,
Okay.
let's see. Yeah, if you're looking for something aim, like just aim requirement, because you like put a lot into your aim, like there's Hela and Punisher and Hawkeye, who are like high aim requirement characters. I would probably stay away from Squirrel Girl and Black Widow. Scarlet Witch
Okay.
is very easy, but I'd say gets less value than other characters. Stay away from Spider-Man. He's very fun, but also not great. And
Okay.
it's it's very he's probably one of the most difficult characters in the game to master and get value out of.
Okay. That
Um,
makes sense.
yeah, so here's a couple like the good characters. So Storm, Iron Man, Winter Soldier, Psylocke. I stay away from maybe Mr. Fantastic. He's pretty complicated and is mid. Um, uh, Wolverine is I hear pretty solid at the moment. He's a tank buster character.
Okay.
Star Lord's pretty good. Yeah, so that Duelist is a little bit more complicated. I'd maybe stay away from Black Panther, Magic, unless you're like looking for some brawly characters. But Wolverine, Psylocke are maybe a bit better in that brawly area.
Okay.
And then finally, strategists. Mantis. So Invisible Woman, I think is the best support at the moment. Mantis, is pretty solid. Luna Snow's easier, and Cloak and Dagger I think also gets a pretty solid bit of value. So those four I'd probably say are your best off on. Jeff is very easy, so if you're looking for an easy character, but I think gets a little bit less value.
Okay.
Loki's a bit more complicated. Adam Warlock and Rocket, I think, are just a little bit less powerful than the other picks, but can still get value.
Okay. Awesome. No, that's a great summary.
Yeah. All right. Any final questions about anything?
No, I think that was great. I think that answered all my questions and gives me like a really good basis to kind of start working from.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds good. So from here, feel free to ask any other questions if you got any other questions at any point. I'll go over to Fiverr. I'll get you your recorded session, even though I mean you recorded it, so but it's I'll still get it to you, and then I'll go over to Fiverr and mark your order as delivered, and then you can go mark it as complete and leave a review. Especially would appreciate those since the rivals coaching is something that's new, so reviews are always appreciated.
Yeah,
And
no,
then,
definitely.
I think that's about it. If you're ever interested in more sessions, feel free to come back. I'd be happy to help. I have subscription options to give discounts up to 20%. And then
Okay.
final thing is just note that I'll be getting a lot busier in like March-ish, so might be good to get something in before then if you're ever interested. And I think that's about
Oh,
it.
that sounds great. Yeah, hopefully this YouTube video or series kind of starts doing well, and I could definitely see myself signing up for more sessions. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hope you have a
Awesome.
great climb, and I'll see you around.
Thanks. Sounds good. I appreciate it, and I'll let you know too. When that video and stuff gets posted.
All right, sounds good. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks.
You
Take care.
should send me the link when you get it.
Okay.
All right,
Sounds good.
bye.
All right. Bye. Have a good one.